Hello everyone, and welcome to a new edition of Low Code Café, episode 78. Today will be a special edition, and we'll be looking at the upcoming 1.19 release, and I will get the chance to demo, show you a lot of the cool stuff, and get into depth. So I would appreciate your feedback, your questions as we go along. But before that, let me give a brief introduction for new people in this event. This is something that we do every week, same day, same hour, and it's a community event, a technical community event. So we get together to look at new capabilities, showcase techniques to achieve certain use cases. And the largest chunk of this presentation is about something hands-on, so building a system, building an integration, things like that. So it's a lot of very good training content, and everything is being recorded and published on our YouTube channel. So if you haven't done it already, make sure to visit our YouTube channel and subscribe. There's 77 hours of video in just this series alone with very useful topics. Good. So for today, I will be the only one presenting. My name is Bogdan Litescu. I'm the founder and CEO of Plantain App. Usually we have Dale as well, but Dale is on vacation this week, so we are happy for him. But this will also give me more chance to speak about the product, which I'm very passionate about. So let's jump right into it. We've announced for the last few webinars that 1.19 is coming out very soon. So this Friday actually will open the beta for the beta program. If you are not already in the program, you want to check it out, reach out to me or to Dale or to Ben, and we'll set you up. And then 10 days from that moment, on the 14th of February, we'll do the official release. So there is a lot of stuff that happened in 1.19, and unfortunately not everything is ready. So that's why we added this word experimental to it. You'll see it's ready for many different use cases, but not all the features have been done yet, and it hasn't been heavily tested yet in real life scenarios in production. But this raised some questions, and I wanted to give you, maybe let me refresh this. I wanted to give you like a couple of thoughts on our strategy regarding all this Bootstrap transition, because yes, the question is what happens to Bootstrap 3, how long we are going to support it, and so on. So right now in 1.19, and I will show you that in a bit, we are keeping Bootstrap 3 as the default. So I'm receiving something in the chat that there is a problem with the link to this webinar. Ben, can you give me more information? Oh, okay. So the link received in the past no longer works. So maybe one quick thing I can do that I should have done maybe is send a reminder from Zoom. So if you excuse me 1 minute, that will only take a couple of clicks. Okay. We'll sort it out for next week to see what happened with the link. Usually Dale sets it up, so probably I did a mistake here. Nevertheless, this is being recorded, and I'm sure that people that didn't get the right link will receive the email with the recording afterwards. Okay. So let's get back to it. So I was telling you a bit about our Bootstrap strategy on the short and the longer term. So in 1.19, we'll keep Bootstrap 3 as the default. So we've spent a lot of time making sure that nothing breaks. There are no regressions. Right now, we identify already a couple of things that the team is working on as we speak. But basically, everything will stay Bootstrap 3, and optionally, you can switch to Bootstrap 5 and start experimenting with it in isolated places of the application. Or if it works, you can do a application-wide deployment as well. After 1.20, of course, we'll change the default to Bootstrap 5. So in Bootstrap 5, everything new that you change, it will create it Bootstrap 5 unless you manually switch to being Bootstrap 3. Right? So everything meaning the entity generated pages, but also the modules that you add manually to the page. So everything will start will initiate with Bootstrap 5, but of course it might take some time for people to actually switch to Bootstrap 5. I think it will require to go page by page, test everything, make sure nothing broke, of course, especially if you have like custom designs, custom scripts, things like that. So then I think 1.20 will be supporting on the long term as the fallback for Bootstrap 3 support. We'll probably take another 2 release until we remove it from the product. So probably in 1.22 is when Bootstrap 3 themes will no longer be shipped to the product. But in terms of support, our policy right now is to have 1 year backwards compatibility. So even if people don't get the chance to transition fully, they will not be able to upgrade after 1.22, but they will have long-term support for Bootstrap 3. But also with this new release in 1.19 as well, you'll see, as I started demo, you'll see we planted the seeds for it. In 1.19, we are already changing the responsibility of who needs to make sure Bootstrap is loaded. We are raising it to the page or to the scheme, meaning that the modules will no longer include Bootstrap by themselves, and they will rely on what's on the page. And sorry, I mean, in the DNS world where you'd have separate components, that made sense because you'd have them separate. But in the plant and app world where everything is a single product, it's more natural to transfer this concern and simplifies the logic a lot. And you'll see, and I will show it in the demo, that we took a lot of extra steps to show wordings on the page. So if you have let's say if you have an action form on a page that you use the Bootstrap 5 template, but the page is with Bootstrap 3, it will show you a warning that the correct version of Bootstrap is not there. So we went through the effort of at least letting people know in advance when they're building pages that there is a problem, but otherwise the page or the scheme would include it. Cool. And before jumping to the demo, maybe one other thing that's worth mentioning, and it's something, a big milestone for us as a company, for us as a community. This 1.19 is the last release in the DNS world. So it will mark our end for I think 13 years already of activity in the DNS world. Of course, action form and search books will continue to be developed and deployed. So a subset of the features will still be available. But naturally, Plant and App will outgrow these modules as well. So this module will probably stay to offer, let's say, basic to medium capabilities in the longer term, and then Plant and App is the solution to escalate for more advanced features. Cool. Any questions so far? Otherwise, I will jump in the demo. Okay, let's do it. So what I've prepared for myself here, it's, and let me start from the homepage. It's just a new brand instance. It doesn't have anything besides an entity that I did as a test just before this meeting. So we are going to start looking from scratch at this kind of functionalities. So first thing first, let's do the easy way. Let's start from the entity piece, and then we work towards looking at individual components. So in the entity screen, let's assume we want to create a new entity. So I already had a contact entity here, so let's create maybe a company entity. You'll notice the first thing here is page UI library, and it defaults to Bootstrap 3, as mentioned that our policy is for this release. And here it gives you a hint that Bootstrap 5 template is available as an experimental feature. You can switch to it here. It will say, it will give you a heads up that all the entity pages will be converted to Bootstrap 5. I mean, just for this entity, it will not affect all the entities. So that's why we decided that this should be a per entity feature, so people can migrate one at a time, one entity at a time, not everything at once. So for this example, actually, I will start it on Bootstrap 3 because I want to show you the conversion process as well. So let's create an entity as we usually do. I will just create a basic one for now. So let's give it the company. Maybe it has a name, maybe it has an email. Maybe we keep some notes on the company, and let's keep it like that for now. And maybe let me set some proper types here and large text. Okay. Name. Okay. So now I'm saving, and of course the entity page is created with Bootstrap 3, and actually we can go to it and check it out. And maybe let me close all of this. Okay. So far, maybe also add some data here. So far is what you would usually see. I did a crazy click. So what you usually see is just a Bootstrap 3 components, so nothing different so far. I will just add a bit of data so we can look at before and after. Okay. Yeah, and also let's look at the detail page for a bit. And this is the detail page generated for it. And maybe one thing that I could do, so we look at the broader picture, is maybe also add a relation to this entity. So then we have, let's say, contacts, because I already created that. We create a list of contacts for it, just so we have more diverse content. Okay. So with that being set up, now we have two basic entities. One has a list of the other, and on this page, of course, I have the column with the entities, and here, of course, I have the additional tab with the relation, the contacts tab. Okay, so now let's see the magic happening. So go back to the configuration. Let's edit the company entity. I'm not sure if it's my internet, but things seems to be moving a bit slow. Okay, so now I have the ability to convert. So normally you'd have all your pages, your existing entities will look like this, will look like Bootstrap 3. So when you edit it, you'd choose this to switch it to Bootstrap 5. Just save, and then everything gets converted automatically right now. I will show you the bits and pieces that get converted, because right now we don't have a reverb mechanism. So if you go back to the company, you'll notice that there is no setting anymore. So the transition is one way. But of course, manually you can go and I will show you all the bits and pieces. So manually you can revert to Bootstrap 3, of course. Good. So now let's see the magic happen. First, let me refresh this grid. So now this is a Bootstrap 5 grid, and I will get to show you some of these, the new capabilities that are not yet exposed by default, but I will show you some of those capabilities. And also, this is the new detail page. We also arranged it a bit. Oh, that's what happens. And actually, I think there might be some, yeah. And I will fix this in the demo because we look at all these forms and think that is happening here. So the problem here is that some of the forms were not migrated, so we still have some things to do. But we can easily fix that, and that's the error you'll see if you try to use action form on a page, one with Bootstrap 5 and one with Bootstrap 3. This is one of the errors that you'll see. So let's walk through these forms for a bit, because once we look at the settings, maybe let me stop some. Says it's loading. I could always go local if this thing is too slow. So maybe let me do that. Let me prepare my local instance in the meantime, because something, I think it's my internet. It's that time of the day when everybody's using it. In the meantime, there is questions on the chat. So if Bootstrap is being removed from the modules and Plant an app is installed on a site with a Bootstrap 3 or Bootstrap 4 based theme, if we have forms and listing on outward facing pages that we have the older theme, what is going to happen? Will things break or look bad? So I think if you have a Bootstrap 3 theme and you're still using the Bootstrap 3 form, it will work. Of course, if you have a Bootstrap 3 theme and you want to use the Bootstrap 5 form, it will not work. So you have to align the theme of the page with the theme of the form and the listings and so on. Okay, so I see this finally loaded. Let's give it another chance. So all the forms now you see in the list of templates, besides the Bootstrap 3, now there is the Bootstrap 5 experimental theme. And this will be the default for all the forms on the entity pages when you make that switch in the entity. Of course, you could always revert, go back to Bootstrap 3, and same for all the forms. Let me check here if it will take me forever to open all these forms to check the theme, or if it will be quick enough. Or I think maybe, let's see. No, let's switch to my local instance, because this feels with like a lot of time, and we have lots of things to cover today. So this is a local instance, is more testing environment. So here I have quite a lot of noise, but maybe it will be best because I can show you on the setup that's already there. So let me go to an entity. In my case here, I have a projects entity. Let's check this out. So yeah, going back to the where we were on the detail page. No, this one doesn't work. So let's start with creating a new entity. Again, apologies for this. Okay. So I will start creating with a new entity, and let's make a car entity, cars. And we give it a name, I don't know, model, year, something like that. Let's leave this text, maybe just the year, we make it an integer. And maybe let's link an existing entity, maybe sales reps. Just so we have a list of people that are selling this, maybe it's a list of entities that are selling this car. And then let me switch it to Bootstrap 5 so we can continue looking from where we were. Okay, cool. So now we are on the cars entity. Let's add the mobile. I'm not good with cars, but let's try a Tesla. Okay. So now I'm going to the entity page, and now all should be good. Okay. So yes, I was about to present you the entity page. So here, notice that we also clean it up a bit. So clean it up, the header now is better separated, and also we grayed out the background a bit in the default theme. So it looks a bit cleaner. And also we aligned these buttons with the colors. So all the form buttons and the grid buttons, they are aligned with the color that you pick for the system. So I was mentioning to you that for example, all the forms they have been initiated with the Bootstrap 5 theme. So this is represented here with the Bootstrap 5 experimental theme. If you were to change that, so let's say I will have a page where I use the Bootstrap 3 form. What will happen? You'll see something, an error like this. What happens if, for example, and actually I will show you some special pages. What will happen if for example, you use, like Mark was suggesting, you are using Bootstrap 3 forms on Bootstrap 5 or vice versa. It will be a nicer message. So I actually have some that I will show you. But just so you know, when you are experimenting with it, don't be scared of that error. Just make sure they are all aligned, they all use the same version, and you'll be fine. Okay, okay. So we covered a bit about how to make the transition to Bootstrap 5 for the entity pages. Let's see if there are any questions so far. There are not. So then I will move on a bit to show you some of the new capabilities in the listing template. And maybe the best place to show it would be here in the main entity listing. So here, let's say that we want to change this listing a lot to, for example, implement what we used to have, the car views and so on. So one thing you'll notice in the views where we moved everything, there is the legacy view, which is the all settings. And notice they are exclusive, right? So if I want to enable the legacy view, which is what we had until now, you have to turn this on. And then, of course, you have all the settings that you used to have that are related just to the legacy system, So lots of settings have moved in this area. Some settings, I mean, it will not be intuitive. What do you mean page sizes is just for the legacy view? Well, it's not. Each of the new view has their own settings, right? Because a data table has pagination, same as the old template, but for example, for card views, it has different kind of pagination. You say how many columns per row and how many rows per page. So then on large screen, you have a page size of 24, but then on mobile, you have a page size of 4. And here you can customize all of this. And we'll play with the settings in a bit. I will just leave it as default so you see how it looks like. And let's get the calendar selected as well. And maybe let's say we first want to display the data table and then the cards and then the calendar. The calendar, we do have to configure to show something. So the calendar, maybe just let's select the created date. So we see when the entries were added in the system, and we use name for this one. Okay. So immediately out of the box, we get these new views that are cards, and this new view that is something happened here. That is the calendar view. I should have seen one record. Maybe I didn't configure something. We'll take a look in a few. Or no, I think something is off here. But you get these views out of the box. So let's look a bit at the cars view first of all. So you notice the car view, it just lists all the settings, you know, and you have these nice copy pasting capabilities. But of course, normally you don't want to show something like this, maybe only for admin purposes. So that's why we added quite a few capabilities in terms of customizing this template. So out of the box, I can, sorry, the cars template, I can say which is the title field that needs to be displayed at the top. I can select a subtitle, let's use the model. If I had an image field, I could select the image field. So then it appears at the top of the card. You know, if you want to be like let's say a catalog, you want to show a picture or a list of people, again, you want to show a picture. And then, of course, you can have a description field. I don't have any that will make sense in my case. I can choose to put something in the footer. You know, so let's put the year in the footer. And I want to show the ID inside the card, so I easily can reference them. So now, again, you see this changed how it looks like. You know, so I have the title, I have the ID went here, the footer went here. If I had a description, there will be a large area here with the description. And all the other fields that don't fit in, they are the ones that still get displayed like this. You know? So you'll say, okay, but I want to get rid of this as well. You know, I don't want it. So interestingly, we added a new setting. Let me go back to the card listing. We added a new setting per field. So I think in this case was the sales rep. So a new setting per field here, and it's called detail view only. So where it says visible on various devices, you can also only say that this one is visible for the detail view only. You'll notice that we added some labels here now, so you know which device these fields will show on, or if it's only in detail view. And I will show you in a bit what detail view means. But right now the field disappears from here. You know, I told him I don't want that field in the main view. You know? So now I can control very well what goes into these cards. So how do we see the detail view then? Sorry, I think I tend to go into different tabs. So for the detail view, we have, of course, a action for it. You know, so let's add a new button. Let's make it an item button, and let's say this is the details. And in the action section, there are two actions actually. One is the custom detail view, and you'll recognize this as being the old inline details action. So we just rename it. It will be backwards compatible. Just the name changed. You know, everything will work the same. So this is the custom detail view where you can still put your own template. And we added a couple of settings, and I will show you that in the other action. Because the other action is much easier to use, and detail. It's called detail view. And actually, let me maybe make this false so I don't see it. It doesn't run. So with this one, you don't get an area, and all the fields are generated automatically. You know, so here I can say, let's say details, and I say, do I want to display it in left sidebar, right sidebar, or model? Right? Let's leave a right sidebar by default. This is the default, and I think it's the nicest format to show details. So right now, if I click this button, you see these things pops from the right, and now you see all the fields. You know, so if I had, let's say, 50 fields, 100 fields, I could have maybe 4 on the main entities, or 5 or 10, and then the rest will be here in a long list to find. So, any questions so far about this, the new views in the new capabilities in the new views? Okay, you haven't seen the best yet, I would have to say. So, let me start enriching the data with some filtering, for example. So let's say we want to make the name sortable and maybe even filterable, yes. And then maybe we also want to make the model filterable, searchable, sortable, things like that. And maybe the name was already. And then maybe we also want to make the year filterable and sortable at least. So now we added a couple of filters. So if we look at this, you'll notice that we pull the filters out of the header. Before, in previous release, we used to have like a filters button that would show the filters. Right now they are up front. You can see them, and of course you can filter right here. Of course, I don't have enough data to make sense. So maybe let me add another car. Let's put a Jeep Renegade. That's my car. That's why I know it is the one of the few cars that I know. Sorry about that. Okay. Cool. So now we have two entries, and of course, oh, okay. I think yeah, the filters didn't refresh on adding data, because probably, yeah, interesting. Cool. So yes, now we have the filters, and of course you can, we prepared this. So if you can see, we prepared it for supporting multiple filters. Right now it's only one filter. So when you select the second, the first one selects. And it will also be useful if I had more data, but maybe in a bit I will switch to a different data source with more data, because there's also a search bar here, so you can search inside filters. But we only show it if there's more than 5 entries. You know, if it's 2 entries, there's no point showing a search bar there. So this is now visible, and also the sorting has received some improvements. So right now it's 3 states. So you sort ascending, you click again, you sort. So first click ascending, descending, and then you reset it. So there's 3 states, and you can actually see it in the URL, because by default we enable sync as well. You know, so and I think it might be another glitch here. Yes. Okay. So yeah, sorting also has the 3 states now. And interestingly enough, since I mentioned the URLs, you notice that we clean it up. You know, so before in the old views, you'd have a module ID appended to it to make it unique. Right now, we changed that to let people specify what the unique part should be. So for example, here, what I could do in the settings, we added a new setting. It's called query string prefix for the sync with URL. And here, of course, I could say this is a car, so I could put a prefix like this. So now what happens is, of course, I mean, this is the old one. So if I clean it up a bit, you see it has this prefix car view, you know, and then if I go to this is cards, car view equal cards, you know. So then, of course, as you navigate forward and back between data and between views and between filters, because it also takes into account everything, you know. So as you navigate between this data, if you have multiple grids on the page, you'd have to specify the prefix. Otherwise, they will get confused by the URL if they are using the same parameters. Cool. Okay. So this we covered a bit the listing module as well. Maybe before moving on, maybe let me go to, let's see if I have a listing page with lots of data to look at no, maybe I want to show you like how it looks like with lots of data. So maybe let's create a new page and do it manually, because then I'll be able to show you other stuff as well. So let's create a new page. Let's say we are managing pages, because there is some data in there that we can use. So let's start with building like a custom page. So of course, now you see I'm on the standard DNN skin here. So I think this will be a good point to illustrate the messages first. So now we are building from scratch. So of course, we have a form here. So let's do a blank form, and let's just add a couple of fields, text box. And maybe I'll add a button as well, submit. And let's keep it like that for now, and we'll complicate it in a bit. Cool. So now you notice the form loads, everything looks nice, but of course it's not Bootstrap 5. So the first thing, I go and change this template to Bootstrap 5. So refresh, and now out of the sudden, the form realizes that this is not a Bootstrap 5 skin. So it tells me this message in a friendly format, what I mentioned earlier, and it advises me that what I have to do here is either switch the theme back to Bootstrap 3 or figure out the Bootstrap 5 included in the page header tags or in the theme. So I have some instructions here to get me started that this is not okay. Although it might look okay, it actually will lead to all sorts of conflicts. So since I do know I want Bootstrap 5, what I can do is switch the page theme to a Bootstrap 5.1, and we have one that we ship by default with Plant an App, default Bootstrap 5. I will say no card, no title, and that's it. Now the form loads properly with Bootstrap 5. Of course, if I went back now and I change it to Bootstrap 3, now I have the other problem. The page is Bootstrap 5, but the form is Bootstrap 3. And again, it tells me that both, and actually in this case, it's a different message, because now I have both. Action form has Bootstrap 3 because it still has that option with include Bootstrap in 1.19, while the page is Bootstrap 5. So then it tells me, oh, it's something wrong here. It will not work properly. You'll probably end up in all sorts of weird situations. It's best to sort it out. Yeah. In my case, I know that I want to stick to Bootstrap 5, so I will change this back. Okay, so now we are back to the healthy state. One thing that you might have noticed here when I open this menu to add fields, you'll see this menu is much smaller than it used to be, because we moved a lot of fields. We regrouped them, we renamed them in better ways, and got rid of some. So you'll notice it's much cleaner and more intuitive. Like multiple, we split it in multiple choice and single choice. A lot of these are obsolete and will be removed in 120 because they've been replaced by much better ways to do it, or they were just some let's say shortcuts for doing other things. So a lot of these fields will go away, but even the main menu now we cleaned it up quite a bit. So just so you know, when you install it, open it up, don't be scared. We haven't removed any of them yet. In 120, it will be the cleanup. Cool. So one interesting fact about the new Bootstrap template that might affect you. I will not go deep into it because maybe it's very technical, but we switched to Bootstrap to CSS grid for using layout. So let me just illustrate this a bit and how it changes. It might change things for you. So I'm having two fields now. Let's place it, let's say one after the next, and just look on the front end for a bit. So now we have two fields, But just looking a bit with the inspector, I will not go deep, I promise. You'll notice here on the root of the form, you already see the 2 columns, but these are the CSS grid. No? So what does this mean? It means that it's much easier to position items. But if you use the, let's say, the Bootstrap layout, the call ones, you'll have to probably adjust some custom code here and there if you went that deep into customizing forms. This grid also enables the possibility in the future to have forms that normally you couldn't have done, because for us, forms were always rows, and on each row you could have multiple fields. But this new way of doing things allows us to also have forms that span across multiple rows. So you could have like a big text area on one end, and here 3 or 4 fields. So it opens up a world of new possibilities in terms of doing more complex layouts and eliminating the need to do more the custom layouts, which are difficult to maintain on upgrades. Cool. I see some questions in the chat. Yes, Jim asked what Jim asked was if these warnings. So let me switch this back to Bootstrap 3. If these warnings are visible to everyone or just the admins. So they are visible just to the admins. So you need to have edit permissions to the form in order to see this error. And let me quickly demonstrate that by making this available to all users. And then going in incognito. No, so now in incognito, this form is Bootstrap 3. Of course, it's probably broken in many ways, but end users will not see an error. Only builders will see it. So I see another question from Ben regarding the prefix of the. So let me go back a bit to the cars page. So regarding this prefix, we actually are thinking to make a suffix as well, because normally in the old versions you would have a module ID here. So it will look something like this. And of course, for backwards compatibility, especially if people bookmark things, I think it makes sense, and we thought of that, and probably we'll add it in 120. We'll add to put a suffix as well as a prefix, so then we can emulate, and maybe out of the box for upgrades we emulate that behavior. Although I mean, the idea was to get away from this because these are so not friendly. It's much more friendly to see like this car view or car whatever it is, car filter name or filter model. It's much more readable. Okay. So I think this. Oh, there is one more questions. On the car page with filtering, are the field options dynamic? In other words, if you just filter by name and select Jeep, what options will be under the model fields? So I don't think we did that. So you still get all the options in all of them, but at least you see the ones that are selected, right? So at least this is what we did, and I'm not sure if we have that capability. I think we looked at that capability a bit, but changes the data model quite a lot. And I'm not sure yet. It's not yet on the roadmap, but I think it would be very useful for sure to be able to the filters to adjust based on everything that's being selected. Cool. So let me clean this up back to Bootstrap 5, and let me continue back with the listing to show a bit of a more complex setup. So I will add a new listing module. I will close this. We no longer need it. So let's add a new listing. Let's make it full width. Okay, and let's create something from a richer data set. So maybe we do a select from all the pages, select it from tabs. So we have more data than just a couple of rows. So we can play with it to show you other capabilities as well. So tab ID, save. Let's select a couple of fields, so maybe tab order. And you see, this is a good example, and maybe I could add all of them, but then I will have to do a few clicking to put them in detail view only. But you see, this is a good scenario where maybe there is more information that you would want to show to the user, but not in the main view because you have such limited space, you know. So this is a good example of how tables look in real life. Okay, so I think this is enough. Maybe let's, but this will usually be empty. I'm thinking also to get various types of information that is not empty to demonstrate various things. So let's settle with this for now. So I'm just saving just to see where we're at, not here on the pages. Okay, so now we have a listing that has a lot more data, but of course you can tell is the old view, nothing fancy here, because yes, in 1.19 we keep we are playing it safe. So first thing that I have to do is disable that one and maybe enable the data table, and maybe again I will enable all of them just so we have some data. So let's use the tab name, let's use created date for this one, and for the cards, let's use again a tab name, and subtitle, maybe we use the URL, I think will be too big, but maybe we don't use anything, and maybe we use it for description, maybe we put the URL or something like that. Okay. Okay, good. So now we have the new layout. Of course, I didn't enable any filters yet or things like that. So let's also add a couple of filters, and then I will want to add a couple of buttons to show you some of the exciting features. So let's make this portal ID filterable. Let's make this visible filterable. And let me also actually make the tab name filterable, because that will have a lot of value. So you can see how a more complex filter looks like. And before I jump to show it to you, let me also add a couple of buttons. So let's put an item button, or let's put a root button to show you the, let's say we are doing a bulk delete feature, and this we know that it enables selection, and actually let's leave this on for now. And finally, let's put actually we don't need to actually delete anything. We don't want to delete our pages, we just simulate it. Okay, so what we have now here, you'll notice again the filters, and here's how the search look like. In case you have long list of filters, you know, it's much easier to filter it rather than finding the right thing. And you notice the selection, the row selection. So in the legacy view, you'd have to click one row to select it, which was a bit not so friendly on devices and things like that. So now we turn it to explicit filters. So if you want to enable a selection, of course, you'd have to select them. You can select all of them as well if you want it. So now this happens here, and of course the button shows the count. The problem here, the button is gray, and we have a gray background, so that's why you cannot really see the button here. Yep. So this is the new capabilities in terms of selecting filters. But one thing that I didn't point out is that as you switch views, so let's say we want to filter here by only the campaign pages, companies pages, sorry. So now if I switch views, and actually this one, we'll take a look at it if we can fix it. You'll notice that other views are already filtered by this filter. You know? So notice the filters, they stick between the views. You know? And also the selection. You know? If I select this and I go back to the main view, it's selected. You know? So it creates a much more consistent experience because you are looking at data from different views, but the data is the same, the selection is the same, the filters is the same. So it's just changing how you look at it. And then just taking another hopeful look at this one. Something happened here, I'm not sure what, but we would have we'd have similar capabilities on the calendar view with selection and the preview panel and so on. Okay. So let's see what else, if there are any questions. If not, I still have a couple of nice things to show. No. Okay, so there are still a couple of interesting things to show besides this major thing that is the Bootstrap 5 revamp, which by now I'm guessing you understand that it offers a lot more flexibility. So we didn't just rewrite what we had with Bootstrap 5, we also rethink about what settings make sense, how to better provide a better user experience and things like that. So besides all of the Bootstrap 5 part, there's also a couple of, let's say, smaller features that we managed to get in. And there's actually two of them that I want to point out. So first one, and maybe let me go to a form. So first one is you'll notice that the user actions menu has changed. So actually, let me open a button, and here on the button, there were the user actions. Oh, this has an issue, weird issue when open like this. So let me open it through the proper menu. Okay, let's try here. Okay, so now in the user menu, we have this, I think it's not deployed here, or yeah, I think so. We unified all the user actions. So if you know, before this 1.19 release, there will be a user add-on, basically, that will add more user actions to the whatever was available out of the box. So in 1.19, we are getting rid of the add-on, so you can no longer buy the add-on separately, but everything is included with all the with the core product and with action form as well. No? Because user management, user login has become such a core part of everything, it didn't make sense to keep them separate anymore. So that is one of the major pieces, and again, it will nothing will break because we kept the same IDs for all actions. But when you install it, you might end up with two sets of configs or two sets of actions. So what I advise is to uninstall the user add-on first and then do the upgrade, and that probably will be cleaner. If you install the user add-on afterwards, it's more likely that it will remove some config files, so you might have to then install form again or things like that. So that's a useful one to know. And the other capabilities that I think is quite cool and opens the way to a new pattern that actually we started, it was in our vision when we started the product, is we added a SMTP credential type. You know? So normally you'd have the credentials saved in the site settings, one for the entire site. No, but now we are creating the possibilities for of course I don't have one here, SMTP, but now you have the possibility to create your own SMTP server, SMTP connector. Now, and once you have it, of course this will not work for me, but once you have it, again we can go to a button and send an email. And you'll notice this new section here, the connector. No? So it already initialized with my connector, but if you leave it blank, it will just use the default credential, the default SMTP credentials. So this opens a new pattern for creating, having different SMTP servers for different purposes. You know, especially as maybe some email needs to go from a different domain, you know, things like that. But also this is something that we'll continue doing for other things as well. So for example, the next one we are looking at is the SQL connection connector. No? So right now, you just specify the connection string in every action, but this connector screen creates a much more robust way of reusing these connectors and also storing it more secure by default in the database. No? So this is something we'll keep evolving. So all of these are again 2 new features that will come out in 1.19. And we only have 2 minutes left, but one other thing that I wanted to point out to bring on the screen, there's a lot of obsoletes that we announced in 1.19 and they will be removed in 1.20. This is actually a list that part of it is already published on the documentation side. What we'll announce, what will come out soon in 1.19 is that we are obsoleting a lot of other stuff as well. Most notably, the include Bootstrap checkbox in the modules that I've mentioned, but also a couple of old templates not so used in the form, and also some settings in the tabs. Tabs we are picking up to clean it quite a lot. So all of this is going to be removed in 1.20. You know, so in 1.19 again, just marking them as obsolete. But again, what we'll publish, you know, is the migration step for everything. You know, what's the migration step to replace a feature, or to, for example, with the include Bootstrap, the migration note is to include it from the screen or the page. You know. So things like that, and also which ones are manual and which ones are automatic, just so when you have to do an upgrade to one of these versions, you know which features you are using, and you have a migration plan in place to plan the next steps, and of course know which ones will be handled by us and which one you have to do the work for. Cool. So we covered a lot. Apologies again for the glitches in the beginning. We had to resort to my dev instance, which I think it's actually not up to date. That's why I think we experienced some glitches here and there. But overall, we are excited with this release. I think the entity pages look a lot better with Bootstrap 5, and this. I'm looking forward to complete it in 1.20 to have a very nice experience. If there are any questions, let me check. One question is about the responsiveness of this one. So yes, of course, the cards are responsive. You've seen all the settings. The listing is not, you know, so the table is a table. You cannot really make it responsive, but the top part is, you know, so this is the part where you have the views, and then you have the buttons, you know, so the buttons, they go here under group together, you know? And then you have the filters, and the filters you can, I think you can show or hide. Again, here I see a bit of glitch. So then the filters you have like this, and they will, if you have more filters, they will go more and more rows. But this card view looks very nice. I'm not sure I cannot scroll here. Looks very nice on mobile. Of course, this listing doesn't look nice on mobile, and usually it's very difficult to use tables on a mobile device. But the header, again, the header stays responsive. Okay, hope this answers the questions for the responsive part. And of course, the detail still work, you know, so everything, the card view will be maybe the default for the mobile. So that was one question that I missed. And then I think One other question is about jQuery being removed. We are actually no longer including jQuery in many places. We are resorting to whatever is in the DNN. So that happens. I think we already did in a lot of places. There's no point to include our own versions for a long time. All the compatibility issues that were a problem a couple of years back, they are probably solved. Cool. So looks like I got all the questions. I managed to do it by myself, keep an eye on everything. Thank you all for being here. I hope you enjoyed what you saw today. With a bit of glitches, but I'm hoping that you saw the potential of all of this. The beta will go out this Friday, as mentioned, and the final release will be available on the 14th of February. So again, thank you all for being here, and I will be seeing you again next week, same day, same hour, when there is a long-awaited topic with Radu. Radu will show how to debug low-code application with various techniques, and mostly the console, the browser console. So this was a popular request. Okay, see you next week. Bye, everyone.